Hello everyone, and we were hoping on starting the safari with a impala, but he ran off, so we're just going to carry on as normal. My name's Scott, and it's a beautiful sunny afternoon here in the Sabi sands of South Africa, where we are coming to you live, 102% live. I'm teamed up with Ferg on camera, and it's about 31 degrees Celsius, 89 degrees Fahrenheit, and I am searching for a female leopard and her cub. The leopard's name is Tundi, and we followed her back to her den site this morning, or rather the area where she stashed her 4-month-old cub while she spent the night out hunting, and didn't get the best views of her and the cub, but they were seen together in a thick little riverbed. And much later on in the morning, there was another vehicle still out. They actually followed her and the cub to our eastern boundary, and that's exactly where I'm heading to now. From our eastern boundary, thankfully they actually came back onto our property, so they could still be somewhere off to our right, and that is going to be my quest for the afternoon. And it's not just myself out, we've also got Steve out. He's going to head to the area where another leopard was seen this morning, a young male leopard with a duiker kill, and I'm hoping he's going to get lucky there. And Taylor McCurdy is heading out on foot on a bushwalk. So lots happening and lots of good prospects as well. Now please use the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter to ask any questions, or depending on what platform you may be watching, any kind of questions in the comment boxes will work just as well. Marvelous. I'm going to head to the last position of where this leopard was seen heading off into this thick bush off to our right and start our search for her. And while I do that, we're going to send you across to Steve for an update on how he's getting along.
Thank you very much, Scotty D. Indeed, we are on our way to another leopard, and we are in the vicinity of the little prince Hosana, where they had him this morning, and we have managed to come into the drainage line following the tracks of Scott or Taylor from this morning, whoever it was that came in, and the duiker kill that he had this morning up the tambuti tree is gone. The vegetation is very thick here. We tried to come in from that side. We didn't get any view. We've come in from this side, and as of yet, there's nothing to be seen. My name is Steve Falconbridge. Welcome to another episode of Safari Live. I have got Seb Rombi on camera.
Hello.
And please feel free to send through your questions and comments to @Safari Live, hashtag Safari Live, and follow the YouTube stream. Let us know what you'd like to see this afternoon. I am feeling very, very positive about being reunited with the little prince. He is a good friend of mine, and it would be marvelous to see. So we're going to spend a bit more time in this area, see if we can find him in the thick bush. Beck, who'd like to see lions? Okay, we can see what we can do. There were no reports of lions on Vuetela Djuma this morning, and they don't really move at this time of day. But we will keep you posted if something does show itself. Lions do move freely, and the last reports we had, they were north of our northern boundary. So for now, no lions, but hopefully, well, Seb, there's a crested francolin moving in there. I'm pretty sure if Hosana was here, he just moved off, eh? If Hosana was here, that francolin would be making all sorts of funny noises. But Seb was telling me, because he was out here this morning with Taylor, and they saw the carcass. There was a duiker up the tree. And Seb, there was quite a lot of meat left, was there?
Yes.
Quite a lot of meat. So Seb's quite surprised that he's taken it down the tree, and my thoughts are, because duikers don't stay in the tree as well as impala males whose horns can get hooked, a young male leopard like Hosana probably was feeding on it. It might have dropped down, and then he's dragged it somewhere else. But we're going to keep trying to find the little prince. While we do so, Taylor McCurdy is on foot, and I think she would like to say good afternoon.
I'm always willing and ready to say good afternoon, Steve. That's one of my absolutely favorite things to do. Hi, everybody. My name is Taylor McCurdy, and on camera with me today is David. I need to catch my breath. because I maybe forgot to breathe for that entire sentence. But I hope you're looking forward to this bushwalk with myself, David, and Rexon. He's up ahead, scouting out, making sure it's all nice and safe. So if you'd like to have chats with us, remember to always hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or you could also talk to us via the YouTube chat. Now, speaking of the young prince, Hosana, he doesn't look so small anymore. He's grown quite a lot since I last saw him. We're probably going to go into the area and give Steve a little bit of a hand. The reason why is I actually went back to try and have a look around. Some of you may remember from the sunrise safari, but unfortunately we had no luck in relocating him. And it's quite dense in there. Lots of tambutis, tall grass, so sometimes from a vehicle it can be a little bit awkward and a little bit difficult to try and see if there is anything about. But on foot, well, we're closer to the ground, and sometimes it can be a little bit easier. Oh, okay. We've got a request first up this afternoon from Clifford, and that was to try and find some reptiles. Well, it is quite hot this afternoon. I don't know what's possessed me to wear long pants today. Yes, so perhaps we will find some reptiles. Maybe even if we just see some reptile tracks, hopefully maybe some nice snake tracks coming across the road, which we can most certainly stop and have a little look at. So that'll be on the cards. Hopefully we'll find Hosana, maybe a herd of elephants, mud bathing, and a couple of plants, I'm sure, will come into play. But it's also going to be a good day for insects because of the heat, so maybe some butterflies if they're going to be obliging and sit still on the plants. Maybe the odd bug or two. I'd quite like to find a ladybug this afternoon. That's going to be one of the things that I look forward to doing. But for now, we are marching. David is marching backwards. I'm going to put pressure on him now. No, joking. And so we can get towards Weaver's Nest, which is a little bit of a walk away. Obviously a lot quicker to get there in the car. Scott is doing the same thing. He's tracking from the vehicle. Let's see if he's hot on the heels of Tundi.
Well, yes, we have found some tracks of Tundi and her cub moving down this road, but I haven't found the branch that the last person who was with her apparently dropped on the road to mark clearly where in fact they veered back off to the left onto Djuma. So it must have just been a very small branch or twig that the guys put down, or maybe I was just too busy chatting with Ferg to properly look where it was. Now, I'm told that there's been some requests for Taylor to find a reptile. I think that's a great idea. I would like her to find a massive python. So I've added my request onto her list. Now, the tricky thing with working any of these kind of boundary roads is that people often use them as access routes, so they can be busy-ish, which means people can drive along them and crush the tracks or drive over the tracks. I'm guessing that's what may have happened here. At least we've got a rough idea where the last tracks were, so that's a good starting point. Let me just pull off here and see if I can see any more. Always tricky business when trying to track from a moving vehicle, so sometimes it's best just to hop off and have a closer look. Nothing appears to have waltzed down this road where we are here. So I'm guessing it's somewhere just behind us that they veered off. And it's incredibly thick at the moment after some really good rains that we've had recently. So it's going to be a tricky job trying to work out where these guys have gone. What I am going to do is just jump on the radio and just make sure that that last vehicle that was with them did in fact leave a marker, so that I don't waste my time exploring on foot here without making sure of that. They did tell me though that they dropped a branch, so I find it bizarre that we haven't seen anything. Am I losing my mind? Could be. Alright, well, we're going to keep snooping about you, trying to crack the code of this puzzle and send you across to Steve to see how he's getting along on his quest for Hosanna.
Thank you very much, Scott. We haven't managed to relocate on this beautiful male. We are in the area of said carcass, but there is nothing, and we found a small little covey of Franklin in there enjoying themselves and not seeming at all worried. And as you know, we often find leopards because of the alarm calls made by Franklin, and they were just making small little contact calls as if it was a normal day. So there doesn't seem to be any leopard on the scene at the moment, but we're going to keep trying here. Going to move around the block. Richard, it is dangerous being on bushwalk. Yes, it's dangerous tracking a leopard for sure, but we have a lot of experience. A lot of training goes into doing what we do, and Rex is with Taylor in case of any small issues that might arise. But the objective of being out here is to be silent, to be unobtrusive, and to listen to the sounds of the bush. And quite often, the animals will let you know before you see that you are encroaching on their space. I have had many encounters on foot with a leopard that I haven't even seen, and he's just done a little to me. And in thick bush like this, the leopard is saying, don't come any closer, and so then you don't. But if you're not listening and you're talking and you're making a whole lot of noise, it will be impossible to hear that. And quite often what they say, the first that a leopard makes you don't hear, but the second one I can almost guarantee you will hear, and then that is followed by a cat generally running away. They are afraid of us. Unless it's a leopard that has got cubs, that's what you need to be super careful of, because most of the time lions, leopards, when they see people in the daytime, will move away at our approach. But if the leopard has got a cub hidden in the bushes here and you're trying to get close, the cub cannot run away, so the parent will defend itself. And there's nothing more dangerous than a female with a baby. Okay, so we're going to continue seeing what we can find here. Like we said, there's no duiker in the tree, and we know that he doesn't fly and he didn't climb down on his own, so he might be here on the floor and there might be a leopard eating it. We don't know. But while we keep searching, we're going to go over to Taylor, who has got some tracks.
We do have some tracks, but sadly not some fresh ones. So what you're looking at the moment is a track of a female leopard. So you can actually see there are two tracks here, but they are registered. So they're on top of one another. So probably moving at quite a quick pace. Now, I'm wondering if this is Tundi, those same tracks that Scott was looking at today. They're not very big. You can see the little pads at the back here, and then you can see the toes just down over there, and sort of going back towards Ingwe Alley. All right, let's get up. But we're not going to worry about them because we know that they are from this morning, and we found her after she'd walked in this area. Clifford, thank you for all your questions this afternoon. It's great to have them. Who are asking, I think, what's the most difficult or the most dangerous animal to track? Difficult, sure. Let me think about this one. I'm going to have to say, Clifford, it's probably leopards, especially out here in the Sabi sand, and at this time of the year where everything is so dense and so thick. We've seen how camouflaged they are, and it can be an absolute nightmare spotting them. Oh, careful, Darby. Darby's going to fall over now. He's I'll give you the nice section of the road. I'll walk on the dodgy bits. So like Steve has just rightfully said, there could be a leopard right underneath his nose, and he doesn't even know it's there. So if you do walk into a mom and cub, that's not going to be my favorite thing to do either. So not just difficult, but also dangerous. So yeah, I think trailing leopards can be quite hard. Lions, I find to be a little bit easier just because they're normally moving in prides, unless it's a single male marking a territory, so there's lots of tracks to follow. So it makes it that less difficult to try and find them or to miss tracks because there's so many tracks. If you think of the Nkuhumas, when they walk across a road. The entire road is covered with tracks. So, ankle wobble there. So I think I'm going to go with the leopards are fairly difficult. So yeah, now we're marching and we're out of breath because we want to get down to that area as soon as we can. Now, Red, you're wondering how fast did the guys walk? I should probably turn my radio up far. Well, at the moment, we're walking very fast, Red, but we're also going to be walking quite far today, I can imagine. Although, as the crow flies, Weaver's Nest is only maybe 2 or 3 kilometers, so it's not too bad. But when you're on foot, it does take that little bit longer, as we were saying. So we've picked up the pace, and there is a bit of a danger element that comes to it when you are walking quickly through the bush, which is why we're sticking to the roads at the moment. They're a little bit more open. When you start walking on animal pathways and you're moving quickly, you can run into a little bit of trouble, because an animal pathway is obviously there because of the animals, so they walk on it regularly, so your chances are that much higher of bumping into something. However, the roads we've put in, yes, the animals do use them, but they don't necessarily lead to things like water. On a hot day like today, a lot of these pathways will be going to Treehouse Day, Twin Dance, Chele Pan, even back round towards Vuyatela. So while we're moving quickly, we're probably going to stick to the main roads. And we're going to keep on marching. Actually, we didn't do any exercise today, so we're going to do Safari Life Bush Jog. We'll saw you all just now. I'm going to send you back over to Scott.
Well, sounds like Taylor had a bowl of sugar and a cup of coffee before she headed out on the safari. Happy to hear she is full of beans. Now, I've pulled out my phone so that I can show you on a map kind of what is going on and what our plans are for this afternoon. So take a closer look. Basically, this square over here is Djuma. So everything around it is where we cannot go. Although there's this tiny little green section over here, and that is where kind of Chitwa is. The dam is just somewhere over there. So it's adjacent to Djuma. Now, if I zoom in a little bit, I can show you that this is Mumba Road, and this is Drakensberg Road. And basically where I'm holding the piece of grass over here, over there, if you just zoom out a tiny bit, Ferg, that's where Thandi and her cub were this morning. Thandi had come back from this direction, in a easterly direction, back to the cub, and then sometime after Taylor left her, she came onto Mumba Road, all the way up to Chitwa Cut Line, which is this long straight road over here, and then this, where I've put this little red pin here, is where they were last seen heading kind of back into Djuma in a westerly direction. So I'm going to drive around now, check very carefully on Drakensberg Road to see if they haven't come back. If they haven't in fact come out, then we will obviously have to start snooping around within the block over here. Now, Super Dude, you'd like to know how many leopards have got territories in Djuma, and it's kind of changing quite a lot at the moment, and there's a few young males that come and go that are kind of flying below the radar, so it's not their kind of territory. They're kind of just lurking around, flying below the radar. And one of those young males is Tumba. He hangs around in the northwestern corner of our property, and obviously outwards of that, we just don't know where he goes when he's out of our property. So we've been seeing him quite a lot recently over there. There's a female called the Ingrid Dam female, which we also see right along our western boundary over here. Another female called Shadow, who we haven't seen recently, but she used to also occupy this area, and she was possibly has been chased out by this younger, not Ingrid Dam female, the Shidulu female. She's got 2 names, but I keep using the old one. Then there's Thandi, who is the leopard I'm looking for, and her territory used to encompass the majority of Djuma, at least it has for the last couple of months. But ever since Hukumuri male, a new male, has started pushing in from the west, she's moved further to the east, which is why we're looking for her now on our eastern boundary. So the Hukumuri male up till now is pushed into about that much of Djuma. We haven't seen him further east, and what that means is that Tingana, the dominant male, or the old dominant male, is now getting pushed further to the east by this new young male. And this kind of line here is almost the kind of line that we've seen Hukumuri moving into, but not further east. So that could change though in time. Am I missing anyone? There's another male who occupies this area to the north called Buffelshoek. He's called Djuma. We don't see him very often for a few reasons. We think he's mainly on here, but he's also very nervous of vehicles, and we're not sure how far he comes over our northern boundary and how often. So yeah, that's kind of that for now. Hope that helps you. Very good. So we're going to carry on, like I say. We're going to head onto Drakensberg Road, make sure that she hasn't popped out deep into Djuma, which I'm hoping is the case. If not, there is a chance we could still find her somewhere in this block very close to our eastern boundary. Oh, well, we've got some good news. Sporty Spice McCurdy has stumbled upon some tracks.
Sporty Spice McCurdy. Oh, Scotty D. Right, we have got fresh leopard tracks, and how exciting is this? They are of a young male. Now, Rexon, you may have seen up ahead earlier, he's contemplating, he's trying to be one with the leopard to figure out where this cat has gone. So, young males, either Hosana or Tumba, are the two that we know of that have been roaming around, but there's always that opportunity that another young fella moves in. You can see my nice artwork. There's Rexon right now, focusing on the tracks. Standing there. Just now he was standing there. I thought he was going to do the haka, but he wasn't. He had his hands out, but I think he was getting a feel for where that cat had gone. Let's go. Now, Daniel in Scotland, says Nikki, you've asked, that was not a great Scottish accent, I apologise, if every leopard track is unique. I suppose yes, because imagine that leopard has an injury of some sort, maybe a warthog sliced it with its tusk and it forms a scar underneath its pad. That will leave a mark in its track. However, it is quite difficult, of course, to tell the difference between individuals' feet. Maybe as you get to learn the leopards of your area, like Scott has just showed you, they are territorial. So they do like to stay in the same spot when they can, both male and female, find a home and try and keep it theirs. So every leopard track will be slightly different, kind of like how every zebra has a different pattern. There'll be something unique about it. However, for us, just looking at them on the sand, they kind of just look like a leopard track, don't they? But that wasn't a very big paw track just yet. We'll see if we can find some more. What Rexon was doing is as he walks and he sees one, he literally just swipes with his foot like that. Very easy. We will do it again. There's a technique. You've got to use the tip of your toe. You can't be using your heel. It's not that great. So these tracks are really nice. They're over the top of this morning's vehicle tracks. So that's very, very good. And I know Steve is going to be quite intrigued by these tracks. So Steve, they're on the junction of Pangolin Track and Weaver's Nest, heading back towards Gowrie, Main. And speaking of Steve, let's go see where he is. Maybe we're going to meet up with him.
Thanks, Taylor. We have not managed to find anything further to show that Hosanna is in the area. It is very thick bush in there. We've come onto the other side. We're basically doing a bit of a run around the block, having a look at the roads to see if maybe he's come out. My gut tells me he's still in there, but to access and to see with the vehicle at the moment is seemingly impossible. But we will continue trying, and my assumption is he will have just kind of moved from that way in this drainage line somewhere. Kristen, why would he want to move his kill? There's only one reason why a leopard moves its kill. Well, let me explain. First thing is that a duiker in a tree, if it isn't hooked in any way, it might fall down. And then the effort required to take it back up is sometimes more than it is to just feed on the ground. So there are a lot of leopards that, sorry, what's that?
No, it's just a duiker there.
Duiker there. There are a lot of leopards that will always tree their kills, and there's a lot that won't. And by not treeing your kill, you'll often lose it to larger predators. And what I've often seen, especially with younger animals, is that they really struggle to keep that kill in the tree. Older leopards have learned a technique of crossing it in there, and you can imagine an animal that is got full of meat, as it starts being eaten, it loses that rigidity and eventually it just falls down. And a duiker is quite a small animal. It's possible it just fell down and he just dragged it a little bit away. I wouldn't say he would have picked it up and walked miles, but he could have walked to another tree, but we haven't yet found exactly where that could be. So we've done a big loop, and we're going to keep continuing, because I would like to find him, and if we don't have any signs shortly, then we will be moving off. But I know that Taylor is heading in this sort of direction with Rex, and they might be able to give us a hand, which would be nice. But we just drive around having a look at the trees now. We're on the road, obviously, and there's nothing coming out on this road across the drainage line. I wouldn't expect it to. Oh, there we go. Okay, I found his tracks. Super dude, do leopards have problems with baboons? Yes, they do. But baboons also have problems with leopards. Now, essentially, a leopard will kill a baboon if it gets the opportunity. A leopard will sneak up and take any baboon that it can, but male baboons with their super long canine will gang up in groups and physically confront a leopard, and they'll kill it if they can. Jamie had wonderful footage of a male baboon chasing Hosana and Shongile, which are Tandi's cubs at the time, not Tandi, Karula's cubs at the time, and Karula ran in and distracted the baboon, forcing it to chase her. The cubs are only a few months old. It is an amazing clip. You should maybe go back and have a look at that if you like. But the baboons, they are not friends with leopards at all. They are mortal enemies. But a big male baboon versus a female leopard, there's no contest, really. The male baboon is very, very strong and very, very powerful jaws. So I just had some tracks of what looked like a male leopard coming up the drainage line there. I'm going to further investigate and see what it is that we can see. But I have now parked in such a way that you are all directly behind. It is behind me, but that's okay. That is okay. You didn't have tracks this morning, Seb, coming up this way, eh?
I don't think so.
I mean, it's possible those are his tracks from this morning. Lots of elephant. You see these nice elephant tracks here? If I go on the other side, can you get them? Okay, so seeing as you've got some tracks here, I'm going to see if I can find the leopard track for you. Last one I saw was just down in the drainage here. You can see the elephant tracks here. This is very round, and this one's oval. And if you've ever wondered how to track and see the direction of an elephant, it is quite easy. The front foot is the round foot, which would be this one. And the back foot is the oval, and the long foot, which is this one. Can you make that out, Seb? Okay, there is the back foot, and here is the front foot. And a lot of people, something that my students always initially struggled with was, how do you tell direction of this animal? We've got a front foot, we've got a back foot. Okay, so essentially the front foot is always put down first, and then the back foot will go on top of that. So over here you can see a scuff mark where the back foot is scuffed in there, and also when the weight of the animal's foot goes down, you get this shiny piece at the back there. Can you see that shiny piece? Versus this. I'm going to demonstrate just next to it by putting my foot down. Not very clear, but if I show you my shoe here, Seb, can you get that? There's the back where the weight is, and the front is this little scuff mark as the toe kicks up. So elephant, beautiful shiny track. You can see here again, shiny as he slid in, and he's heading in that direction. And so how to work out not just direction but speed. Now, I would say this is probably a male elephant purely because there's no other tracks around, but the speed depends on how far in front of the front foot is the back foot. And this back foot, here's the front foot there, here's the back foot there. It's basically, there's almost no gap in between. So I'd say he's going at a medium pace. He's not strolling, he's walking at just a medium pace. He's not running. If he was running, this foot would be that much further forward, at least a hand difference. Elephants don't run, they just move their legs a lot quicker and a little bit further apart. Okay, so next, are you getting my comms? I've got you on radio. I just want to make sure if you talk to me, I have you.
I didn't realize you had me on radio. Yep.
Okay, good. So there's no tracks here. The track I can see in the drainage line there is possibly even him from yesterday when he made the kill. So there's nothing fresh on the side. Lots of vehicles. So we're going to keep trying to do what we can do. But a beautiful track down there. Okay, folks, let's keep going around the block. One more effort to see if he comes out, and then we're going to have to try something else. Lovely elephant tracks there. We had an elephant bull just before show starting. Okay, we are going to go back over to Taylor McCurdy and see what updates she has got for us.
Well, you might not be able to see me, and you're probably wondering why I'm whispering to you. We're going to try and give Steve a fright. That's the plan here, everybody. So I hope you're all excited. We're luring him in. We're baiting him. Rexon is trying to get hold of him on the radio to tell him to come back down Weaver's Next towards Pangolin Track. So I'm just listening out for his car. I could hear him talking about the elephant footprints, so he can't be too far away from us. So we're just confirming that he did get the message that Rexon is looking for him. Did you tell him that, Nikki? I'm not talking to Nikki, she's directing today. But he doesn't seem to be responding to Rexon on the radio, and I don't know where he's gone now, so this might actually just fail, which will be sad, because I can normally hear the cars coming from way away. What is he doing, Nikki? Oh, there we go. Okay, there we go. He's just got hold of Rexon now. Rexon is now telling him where to come. Hopefully he comes through swiftly. He wasn't far off. I could hear him talking. Steve doesn't talk loudly like me. I mean, you could hear my voice from Australia. Trying to hear if I can hear his car now. There we go. So Rex is giving him the right instructions now. So he's telling him, he's luring him in. He's leaving a bread trail. Let's see, come on, Steve. Now, while we wait for Stivovo to start his car and come driving down here, Thor, you're wondering if the wild dogs have left the area yet. They have. They actually moved on to Arathusa yesterday. Apparently they caught a impala, which is really good. Fantastic news. And then I suspect they would have gone even sort of, or maybe further southwest onto Elephant Plains, somewhere along there. So I'm not exactly sure just yet. Does Steve not want to find this leopard that he hasn't started his car yet? What is he doing? I haven't heard an engine go. Have you heard anything? Yeah. Right. This is not going to work because Steve doesn't want to find the leopard today, even though we've got the tracks that go off the road here. We'll go find the leopard for Steve. Let's go across to Scott. Maybe we can try and scare him.
That was an epic fail, and hopefully Taylor will get lucky with working out her plan a little bit later. As you can see, there is a cell phone and some termites behind the cell phone that are furiously gathering food. These are called harvester termites, and there's a theory and a notion that they are become quite active before rain. I hope that is the case, because the more rain we can get, the better. But looking around, it doesn't really appear like we are going to get rain. Now, the reason why I've set my phone up there is I've put it on a time-lapse function. I mean, you can see at the moment they are furiously active. But by putting a little time-lapse video together, it'll give you guys a better idea of how much action is actually unfolding here. And I guess it will help our human brains to fathom the ridiculous fact that termites consume more biomass than all herbivores combined. How does that even work? But when you look at these guys, even though they're small, they are numerous, they are very hard-working, and they are going about doing a great job recycling. A lot of plants matter that other animals won't eat, they can. Very good. We're going to come back here a little bit later, leave my phone in the middle of the African wilderness. All for you. And we're going to continue now and go and have a look. I've been a little bit distracted trying to balance the phone correctly on those logs there, on a makeshift kind of a tripod effort, that we haven't made it down to where we needed to check for any tracks of Thandi and her cub coming out if they continued west away from the eastern boundary. Hello, Cat Boy. You'd like to know if Taylor did in fact have any luck seeing Thandi's cub at the end of the sunrise safari. And I mean, yes, she did, but I don't think we can count it as a good sighting for Taylor, because she just got a few brief glimpses. It was very thick where the cub was hiding out, and the mom, and it was another vehicle that stayed out much later until about 10 a.m. That got to see them on the move. So that's that. Now, I can't show you on the map because it's on my phone back there where exactly her tracks were heading towards, but you'll just have to trust me in that they would have come out at the next road junction to our right. So had they have continued in a westerly direction the way they peeled off the eastern boundary, they would have been popping out anywhere from here and then a little bit further south. Nice big Impala ram over here. He would be a good challenge for Thandi. I've never actually seen a female leopard catching a fully grown male Impala. They do it often, but it is quite a wrestling match. Oh well, he's not very welcoming, is he? I hope Thandi gets you later, boy. Now, another interesting thing about where we stopped here is that there is a tree. It's that tree there, I think, kind of 10-11, that big marula, yeah, spot on, Ferg. That tree, oh, the one to the left of that, yeah, that one over there. It's that very tree where the same leopard we are looking for now had not one but two kills hoisted up onto the kind of left-hand lower limbs, and it was a waterbuck and a duiker. And what's interesting about the sighting is that because there was lots of meat, they spent quite a few days here. I think it was 3 nights that they spent in this area. And after the 3rd night, obviously early in the morning, Thandi decided that it would make sense to now abandon the carcass and take her cub away from this area. She was simply feeling that it was just too dangerous to stay there. There'd been a lot of lions moving through the area. And a few hours later, literally a few hours later, a big male lion came into this area, climbed up that same very tree, and took the kills down one at a time. So who knows what would have happened had Thandi have decided to stay there with her cub. So it's a great example of what a good move she made on that specific morning. And who knows, maybe she's kind of making her way back through this general area now. Quite a nice road this for tracks, so that's the good news. Very soft sand. Could Clifford, you'd like to know which animal gives leopard the kind of hardest time. It all depends on the area in which you are viewing the leopard, because the population dynamics of predators vary greatly throughout the different kind of parts of Africa that you can explore. So, in some areas it's actually other leopard. Other leopard are their own biggest kind of enemy. Almost kind of like us as humans, I guess. We're our own worst nightmare a lot of the time. And the same can go for leopards. Here in the Sabi sands, it's a combination of things. Other leopards, because there is a high population of them. Hyena, there's a quite a high population of hyena too, and lion. So it's a kind of, I think, an equal mixture between the three apex predators of this ecosystem. They're kind of equally numbered. To put things in perspective, I know of a leopardess who died when she was about 8 or 9 years old. So on the young side, she got wounded by a warthog. It sliced open her paw when she was trying to kill it. And she gave birth to multiple litters. I would say maybe about 7 or 8 litters of cubs in her life, and she did not raise one cub to adulthood. And almost every single litter that she had was destroyed by male leopards. She was in an area where there was almost permanently new males coming onto the scene, fighting with one another for dominance, and that resulted in leopards being her biggest issue. But yeah, it depends on the area that you're in. Okay. Very good. Well, Steve had some great luck with a whole bunch of widers the other day, and it sounds like he's found you guys some more.
Thank you very much, Scotty. We have found a male wider who does not kill the chicks of the females, as the leopard male you've been talking about did. That is such a beautiful individual, and he's standing at an awkward angle. There we go. If you can get him in the air, he's doing a display now. Difficult to see, but he is very colorful, and he dances through the sky, indicating to the females how fit he is. Now, the story with tails, long tails, specifically in birds, there was a study done in Malawi with a widow bird, and widow birds are quite similar in the way they behave to the widers, apart from the fact that they are not brood parasites, but they also get a really long tail in the breeding season, and in the non-breeding season they don't. So some scientists went and decided, let's test this theory and find out why do these birds have a long tail. So they took an individual bird, they cut its tail off. That was the control bird. Then they took it and they stuck its tail on the tail of another bird with some form of glue, and then they kept a third bird, which was the second control, which had a normal tail. They then went and counted the nests that these males frequented. Because they are polygynous, they'll mate with more than one female. The females choosing them because of certain characteristics and traits, and the male with the longest double tail, he just dominated all the other males, because the girls went, wow, he is still alive with such genetics, I want him. Whether that poor guy survived the breeding season is another story, but the male with no tail, sadly, was very well overlooked. What a poor story. So they came up with the idea. It's called the handicap hypothesis. Those of you who play golf will understand what that means. But handicap basically means if you are able to achieve achieve what you're doing with such a handicap, then there must be something very strong and very amazing about your genetics, and females will choose it. But on an interesting note, you can also have a look. And we did the other day, we had a nice family of widers, or male widers, displaying in the road, and scientists have spent hours and hours and hours documenting these types of birds. And the birds, they'll capture them afterwards, they'll measure the tails, they'll measure this, they'll measure that. Everything is identical, but yet there is something about those individuals that the females are going for, and they are picking again and again the same male. So the selectivity behind it has driven the animals to form such elaborate displays, such incredible tails and colorations, and it is very minuscule. We can't see it to the human eye, but the ladies, the birds, There's something that they are seeing that works every single time. So I like that story. Size does seem to matter. Kestrel Fox wants to know if they always have those long tails. No, only in the breeding season. So soon they'll go through their eclipse plumage. This is the breeding plumage that comes about because the weather is good. There are seeds everywhere. Love is in the air. As soon as the season changes and the breeding stops, those birds will go straight back into a daub, eclipse plumage, and they look almost identical to the female. Very bland in color, very camouflaged with a very short tail, which enables them to have accurate and safe flight. So that big is a huge encumbrance for them this time of year, but it is purposely built in to attract the ladies and to breed. If they survive or not does not actually matter. Ooh, that is buffalo, Seb. That is buffalo dung and buffalo tracks. There's nothing quite like the sight of a splat of buffalo dung, and that is in the road. We have done a big loop. Sorry about my head. We've done a big loop. Rexon, we met up with Rexon and Taylor, and they are in the area where the kill or Hosana was with the kill, and they're going to keep making some groundwork there, and hopefully they can come right. But we've done a loop on Rexon's instructions. He had some female leopard tracks heading around this direction, so asked us to check, and now we've come across some buffalo activity. So we might follow up on this and see if we can find a buffalo that we don't often see in the concession. And by the dribbly nature of that dung, I'm going to say it's an old buffalo bull, Duggar boy, and he's grumpy. But while we do so, we're going to go over to Taylor, who I believe has got an elephant on foot.
We've actually got an entire breeding herd through here, so I'm going to talk a little bit softly because the wind has just picked up and starting to swirl in all sorts of different ways. We don't want them to pick up on us. There were some youngsters that were trumpeting about as well. Now, we're in the area where we left Hosana, and I don't think he would have gone far. I'm sure he's just laying around in this drainage line somewhere. So we're basically just waiting for the elephants to move on a little, and thankfully they're doing a bit more moving than browsing and grazing, which is quite nice. So as soon as they move off a safe distance, we can actually go back and just have a look and see exactly where that kill was. I don't know if you remember this morning when we came back to try and look for him, I said that there were some go-away birds that were alarming, and I thought that he'd maybe move. We think we found the spot where he was actually laying down. It was right below where the go-away birds were shouting. So I don't think he's gone far. The fact that that kill's now not up in the tree, he must be around here. But now these elephants are going back and forth, back and forth. You probably won't be able to hear it, but we're just listening to them flap their ears. We're listening to their bodies brush up against the leaves. But with a breeding herd of elephants, it's not a good idea to go any closer than what we are already. We don't normally view breeding herds of elephants on foot just because they can be a little bit more on the temperamental side, like lots of young calves. We've got to keep our wits about us. We always talk about satellite parties. We need to make sure that we're listening out in this direction, because this is the direction that the herd has moved from, the bulk of the herd, and there could quite easily be another smaller party on their way here. There's a few more right at the back. Now, obviously, we always get asked questions about, is this dangerous? And of course, it is exceptionally dangerous. Now, most of you know that we go for us that have got backup trails or full trails qualifications, we are allowed to do little laps and loops in the bush. And Sean, you're wondering if I'm, or any of the other guys, are ever worried as being seen as prey when going for a bush run. No, not really. I mean, the things you don't want to bump into, of course, again, buffalo and hippo are the ones that I'm really worried about, and perhaps running into a satellite party, so getting between a small group of elephants and the main herd. Those are my real worries. A lion, they're going to be most of the time fast asleep during the day, especially now that it's so hot at the moment. It's normally the younger male leopards and the females who have got cubs that are moving around during the day. And the same thing will go for a lioness. If she's got young cubs, typically they'll be moving around more during the day. So you need to be careful of them. But the same rules apply. If you're on a run and you see something, you just stop dead in your tracks. You assess the situation. and then you have to take it from there. It's very hard to give a you can't just give an answer what you do for every animal, because every situation is different. It depends on the wind, it depends on the mood of the animal, it depends on a number of different things. So the most important thing that you need to do is just stand still and assess the situation, and then take it from there. It's natural instinct, your training kicks in, and you know exactly what to do. So there's no need to panic. But it seems as though Steve has been successful, and he's found the buffalo.
Yes, indeed, Telly, we have. I'm not going to be doing any running this afternoon, as I am being watched very carefully by a group of buffalo, a small breeding herd. There's lots of youngsters in there, and they are mud wallowing and having an absolute blast. The weather is relatively warm. It's 33 degrees Celsius, 89 degrees Fahrenheit, and the buffalo are doing what they do best, mud wallowing. A small little pan just on the way down towards Twin Dams, one of our major Twin Dams. Buffalo likely going to be heading in that direction to drink. Don't know where they materialized from. They just arrived on the road there, and here they are. Not the hardest animals in the world to follow. I was once applauded by guests for tracking a herd of buffalo, and they were amazed at how I did it. But, Seb on the left here, you've got her. Look at that. There is the smallest little baby coming behind this cow. And there it is. Oh, how cute is that? A few months old, you can see by the fact that the horns are just pushing through. Probably about a month and a half. But practically brand new. So I was applauded by guests for tracking the herd of buffalo, and they were like, how did you do it? And you basically just follow a trail of buffalo dung. It's not that hard. And also the flies that follow the dung. And there's multitudes of tracks. So they're probably one of the easiest animals to follow. And from a behavior point of view, they're going to go to water. They're always going to water. Twice a day they'll be at water. And any mud wallow or pan, always have a look. And Ashley, yay for buffalo indeed. It is only my actual first time seeing buffalo on Djuma. The other two sightings I've had have been down at Chitwa. So this bodes really, really well for those of you who'd like to see lions, because the Nkuhuma Pride are quite known to follow these guys. They have a reputation for smashing buffalo, and this is exactly the kind of buffalo that they like. Lots of small ones. So Bex, you'll be happy if we find the lions, and we're going to be keeping our nose to the ground. The buffaloes keep safe by moving by day, but I have a feeling by night or by tomorrow there might be some movement of lions into this area following, as I said, the smell and the sounds of them. Tenty would like to know if buffalo inbreed, and that's a very interesting discussion to have there, really. Now, essentially, a breeding herd of buffalo is made up of a matriarchal society. You get a whole lot of females that dominate, and then you'll get a group of buffalo bulls that are the breeding males. Those bulls generally will know each other from quite a young age, and they'll jostle and fight for position and for rank, and then they'll look after the breeding herd. But at the same time, there's a group of buffaloes that are displaced from the herd by the resident bulls, and they go off to the side. They feed. We're going to come back to us shortly, but Taylor has managed to find something sensational on foot.
We have indeed. I'm going to have to speak exceptionally softly because we've got a leopard. And I'm just trying to see who it is. It still looks like it's Hosanna. How cool is this? So we knew that he was still around here, but we were basically in the same predicament that we were in this morning, where we had Hosanna up in the tree, snarling, looking down to exactly the position that he's in now. And that is where Tandy was, and it's very, very difficult to see from the vehicle. We might be able to get Steve in here. He might be able to get a gap abs. We'll be able to look down. Now, we are so lucky to be viewing a leopard on foot now. For those of you, don't worry, we're not in any danger. It's very safe. Nikki, please tell Steve just to stand by. We will get back to him in a minute. We can't really talk on the radio right now, so we've had to turn the radio off. We are being quiet. He's actually feeding. He's feeding on the remains of the daycare. So we aren't going to stay here long. We'll enjoy this for a moment. He's settled down now. He was obviously watching us, assessing the situation, just like we were discussing before if we were to bump an animal on foot. And we've also still got elephants around us, so we are on high alert at the moment, but we are fine. He hasn't snarled, he didn't put his ears back, he didn't move his tail in a way to show that he was unhappy. And I always like to describe it as, if you had an intruder come into your house, you would not carry on eating dinner. So he's fine, he's relaxed. Nikki, we're not going to be able to do a long one. It's literally going to have to be like a minute, and then we're going to have to move out of here, I'm afraid. Are you happy to do an action broadcast for 1 minute? Okay. Everybody, I'm going to go quiet now, and I'm just going to wait for everything to get set up, and we're going to be doing an action broadcast. It's not going to be a long one, and then we'll call Steve in. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Sabi Sand, the heart of the leopards. We are on bushwalk at the moment for this live action broadcast, and I have got my voice very, very low, as I do not want to scare this leopard. But I can't believe it. We had his tracks, we found him, and we've managed to get him after tracking for most of the afternoon. My name is Taylor McCurdy, and on camera with me bringing you this amazing footage is David. Now, we're not going to be able to stay here very long, so very quickly get as many questions as you can, and all you have to do is just comment below. Now, this is a young male leopard by the name of Hosana, the son of Kruger, a very famous leopard that used to live up in the northern Sabi Sands. And for those of you that are worried about my safety, don't be. We've got very experienced guide here by the name of Rexon, who is keeping us nice and safe. And this leopard hasn't exhibited any aggressive behavior. Kaylee, you're asking which leopard is this? It's Hosana. Hosana, the young prince of Djuma. Now, he made a day kill. I think he killed it yesterday, in fact, or maybe even last night. And he's been feeding on it. He's taken it down from the tree because we found him up here in the same spot this morning, and he then disappeared. But it's a spot that we can't get into with a vehicle, so we're quite lucky. You're probably wondering, how on earth are we looking down on top of him? He's down in a drainage line. He's down, right down in this drainage line. So we are quite high above him. We must be about 20 meters above him, and we're also standing quite far back on the bank. And if he was unhappy with us, he would not be eating his meal. He would stop, he would have growled, he would have let us know that he's unhappy, but he's not unhappy. Right, oh goodness, there's a familiar name. Hello, Pippa from Hoedspruit. It's great to have you watching and joining us. Well, we hope to see you soon back at Djuma. It'll be nice to see your face around again. I think we may have just missed you, in fact. Right, this is so cool. Now, John, you're wondering when it's this close, does it get my heart pounding? If I had a stethoscope and could put it up against my mic, you would definitely hear my heart thumping. It makes the adrenaline pump through your veins. I cannot tell you how privileged I am to be on foot with a leopard. We've actually approached him a couple of times. We make sure that we keep our distance though, and because we are on foot, we don't want to be spending too much time with him. So that is all we're going to have time for this afternoon. We're going to move away now, and we're actually going to bring a vehicle in. But this is one of the most amazing rewards about being on a bushwalk, is tracking down the animal and the reward of finding them and them being completely and utterly relaxed with you. That's why the Sabi Sand is the best place to view leopards in South Africa. But I hope that you've enjoyed this just as much as David and Rexon and myself have, and you can continue watching Safari Live. All you have to do is Google Safari Live. So we hope to see you soon. We're going to bring on Steve in, and he'll have another view from the vehicle. But we'll chat to you all soon.
Stiff.
Whew, that was epic. That is amazing. Right, we are back with regular viewers. Nikki, we need to try and get out of here. We've got elephants and things, so we need to just concentrate. I'm going to send you across to Steve, though, and Rexon's going to jump on the radio and we'll call him in. But how cool is this? We'll see you again just now.
Thank you very much, Taylor. You found Hosanna for us. We did try our best there earlier, but we didn't have a rifle. I didn't want to push any boundaries and chase the poor man away. But we are going to go there shortly. I'm sure Hosanna will not be running away too soon. We decided we'd come back to our buffalo and do another small segment. I can finish the question about whether they inbreed. Now, in a herd like this, there will be a group of males that are constantly jostling with each other for the right to mate. And once they have mated, they basically, in the group, they are losing condition all the time because they're constantly competing. The females are doing a lot of the feeding and the males are struggling to keep up condition. And another group of males that is also probably semi-related to the entire genetics of the buffalo population, not specifically the herd itself, are moving in and out and between the herds. And when they have built up condition, and they build up condition because they have no pressure amongst themselves, it's a group of males on their own without any females. So they're able to relax, they're able to eat freely, and they basically just get a lot more fat and bulky. And then they push in and push out the group of males that are currently servicing the herd, and then they replace them for a period of time. Those periods of time can change, they can move, it all depends on condition of vegetation. But essentially the dynamics of buffalo throughout the Kruger Park is there would be a genetic pool, and the movement between the herds of the males will be constantly moving. So there's no set movement of how the males will move. The males, buffalo, do not have a territory. They've got home ranges, and they basically go wherever you want to. That's why we don't always see them in Djuma. They are moving in and out, moving with the rains, moving with the water, moving with the vegetation, and the males do something quite similar. So I don't think there's any worry for inbreeding. Inbreeding is only really an issue in populations that are not natural. But in the Kruger National Park, they are very natural, and only the strongest males will compete to mate, and any of the weaker ones will not. Paula, from the first couple of months, she asks, when do they start growing their horns? The first couple of months, they start getting these little knobs on the top of the horn, and then by a year, they've already got a little bit of a spike come twist on the horn, and that's how you can start to age them. There's only a couple of month-old ones here. The rest are all mature. I don't see any juveniles from last year within this herd, and that's evidence of what lions can do. Is that a youngster there? What is that? Oh, here we go. There's a youngster getting a proper cleaning from some oxpeckers. I hadn't even seen that. Well done, Seb. So the youngster's enjoying a little bit of shade. You can just see the little spots on the head where the horns are starting to come out. I can't imagine what that must feel like, having these bones growing out of the head. It must be a painful process. That's maybe what makes them so grumpy. But so on the discussion of a bushwalk 2 days ago, with the onset of buffalo moving in like this, I mean, you just see how busy the oxpeckers are on that baby. The ticks are going to arrive back in Djuma in full force with the buffalo. So on that note, and on the thought of us scratching ourselves, we're going to go over to Scott Dyson, who I believe is having a nice chilled afternoon.
I certainly am. I'm just chilling in the shade, having a great time. Edited together a short video of the time lapse of the harvested termites, and the reason being why I had to edit the initial time lapse is a little bit of a surprise that you'll see towards the end of the video. So take a closer look. Both Ferg and I are astonished as to how much vegetable matter went down this hole. I mean, it's absolutely mind-boggling. Look at this. It's just like a never-ending pit. How cool is this? And I mean, some really big pieces of grass just somehow getting chopped in there, and then, oh, Attack! A hornbill popped onto the scene. How cool is that? Let me maybe play you the last little bit again. I probably didn't edit it together as well as I could, but I'll play it again for you one last time. And I just want to actually pause it when there's a... There. Look at the shot of the hornbill. Coming in, getting himself some tasty snacks, and off he goes. So it was a successful time lapse, I believe. I'm quite happy with the way it turned out, and look who it is. It could be the very same red-billed hornbill that attacked our harvester termites. Well, good for you. I'm glad you got a snack. You keep sharpening your beak. You can hear its partner chicka 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 chick, chicka 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 chick in the tree next to us. Well, I'm very happy to hear that a lot of you enjoyed that little time lapse, Ladybird and a few others. Thank you for your kind words. And both of the hornbills in here, I'm guessing it's a mating pair, but it's really thick inside this buffalo thorn, so not going to give Ferg much of an opportunity to actually show you anything spectacular. Now, it's still quite warm, and I'm hoping that in this hot weather we might be able to find some life up at the Buffelshoek waterhole, which is just up the drag. We've had no further tracks or signs of Tundi. I drove kind of through the block from Drakensberg to Chitwa Cutline in the hope that we may bump into them. But you literally need Tundi to do cartwheels for us to see her through that grass. Or what I was really hoping for, and which there was a chance of happening, is that because it's so hot today, and because the ground is blanketed with grass, leopards will often climb up trees where there's more of a cool breeze. So I was hoping we were going to spot her up in a marula tree, but no joy. Anyway, at least we've got a good idea of where she's bunkering down. I'm confident she is still somewhere in the block, but where exactly is the problem we need to try and work out. Richard, you would like to know, when will Tundi's cub start eating meat? From 3 months of age, so she has already started eating meat. I think the first thing that we personally saw her feeding on was a warthog, a piglet that her mother had brought back to an area where she was being stashed away. But who knows, she could well have fed on meat from a younger age than 3 months. And the reason we think that is because on 2, possibly 3 occasions, Tundi actually took kills back to the den site when she was still far too young, in accordance to the textbooks, to be eating meat. It was when she was around just over 2 months of age. So, yeah, I mean, 3 months is the rough guideline. And they'll still be relying on milk, or leopard cubs will still rely on milk up until about 6 to 8 months of age on average. But just like humans, it all depends on the individual family, youngster, mother, relationship between those two, etc., etc. Wunderbar. We'll call you guys when we get back, well, when we arrive at the Buffelshoek waterhole, but for now we are going to send you back to Steve and the herd of buffalo.
Thank you, Scotty. I'd love to see that little time lapse of yours. We decided to stay with these buffalo a little bit longer because they are providing us with such good shots. They're very relaxed. They had a moment of spookness where they all ran from the first waterhole or mud wallow, and slowly they have relaxed again. But you can see these buffalo, look at all of those flies emanating over him. There's some wounds on the skin. The buffalo, see, and that oxpecker is attacking the wound. That is a yellow-billed oxpecker, ladies and gentlemen, they are very well associated with buffalo, and clearly this big bull does not want us to see. This is about as old as the bulls get in a breeding herd. You can see he's starting to lose some fur around the eyes, and the boss, the middle of the horns, they are really splitting apart. That's about as old as they get. So he's about at the end of his prime, and he'll be moving out of the herd soon to become a dugger boy with a group of boys that are probably the same sort of age. As they lose interest in the mating rights and in the competition within a herd, the buffalo bulls will move off and form those relationships on their own. Can you go back to that red bull, that yellow bull, a little bit right? There we go. You see the yellow-billed oxpecker, folks, the red and the yellow on the beak. These are a rare and endangered animal that actually, due to the fact of pesticides used in agriculture and products such as DDT to eliminate ticks in the population, it almost completely annihilated the yellow-billed oxpeckers. Not that it affected the adults themselves, but it affected the casings of the egg, the shell casing. And what happened was that the adults would lay the eggs, and they were so brittle when they sat on them to incubate that they would break. And then clearly after a period of time, if your breeding does not work, your population declines. So it's a really big success story from the Endangered Wildlife Trust, the reintroduction of yellow-billed oxpeckers back into the Kruger National Park. They brought them in from Botswana, and it is a huge success story that we are seeing. And these are the first ones I've seen this south in my ever, actually. I've seen them up in the north of the Kruger, but this is the furthest south I've seen yellow-billed oxpeckers. So I'm very happy and excited to see that. Monique in London would like to know how far the buffalo are from Hosana. Probably about 500 meters. Quarter of a mile, not even. We are not far at all. Not far at all. So that's why we thought we'd have another glimpse at these magnificent beasts. You heard the jostling there of that male. They make such wonderful cow-like noises. And he is quite enjoying rubbing the bottom of his cheek. He's losing a bit of space in the water there. They absolutely love to mud wallow, scratching the bottom of the chin. That is a favorite place for ticks to hang out. And I was talking about ourselves itching soon. The ticks lead to such immense itching that I don't think the buffalo have got any respite from it. I think they live a life of itching and scratching. Olivia, the lifespan of a male buffalo, probably about 10 to 12 years in the wild, whereas the females can get up to 15 to 18 years, really depending on the dynamics and on the structure. Obviously, if there's a big herd, females can probably live a little bit longer because the lions won't select them out. But as we know, predators select the weak and the infirm, and the old are often selected against the bigger and stronger. Because lions are not silly, they will always take a much easier target. I mean, if you look at the size of that individual, he probably weighs close to 2,000 pounds. Can you imagine trying to take that down? It would be a very hard ask. So lions will select the smaller individuals. There's a few smaller females around as well as the babies. But there we go, there's a nice wound. You see that wound there. The buffalo, they jostle each other quite a lot, and their horns are very sharp and very strong, and they are very accurate with where they place them. And you'll often find males pushing females around, pushing other males around, and those horns, very easy to break the skin. And if that's not from a horn, it looks like a puncture wound, then it could be from an animal such as a lion, but it looks like a puncture wound, and that is going to fester. And unfortunately, if it's not healed, it's going to get worse and worse, and it's going to lead to weakening of that animal. And that's what hyenas and lions look for the weakness, for an animal that's limping a bit, an animal that's not going to give them too much of a hard time. So we are enjoying ourselves at this mud wallow with this herd of buffalo. We're going to go over to Scott Dyson, who I believe has made it up to Buffelshoek Dam.
Yes, and we've got some hippopotami enjoying wallowing in the water, as I would be if I could swim with hippos, I would. But it would probably prove fatal, as placid as this individual may look now. If I was to go and do some breaststroke towards him or her, I think it's a female, judging by the size of her head, she would not be very impressed, and they are highly, highly aggressive to us as humans if we get in their way. If we don't, though, like most wild animals, they tend to not give us a hard time. Very tranquil scene here. Now, the last time I was here I counted 6 hippopotamus, whereas for now, at least for the time being, I've only counted 4. Of course, hippos can move from pond to pond or river to river, and if some of them haven't done that, they could simply just be submerged at the moment. That is another possibility. There's another one that we can see there. The other one's just gone under the water. There were kind of 2 in this general area. There's the other one. And what's interesting is that for the last 3 months, there's either been 0 or 1 hippo here, and more recently, in the last couple of weeks, there's been an increase in hippos, and I wonder where they've come from, how far they traveled, what made them decide that this was the place to hang out. Interesting stuff. Oh! Now, this is something you don't see very often, but some hippos do it from time to time. I'm hoping it does it again. Ferg tried to swing the camera across as quickly as possible, but basically they roll on their like roll around on their back, so their legs go poking up into there. This one also just did it. Fascinating. They're having a roll-off. So I don't know if that made any sense. They basically roll onto their back, and their short little stumpy legs poke out of the water. I think you got a little glimpse. Let's, now that we know that they're putting on a bit of a show for us, we'll be more ready for it. Oh, it looks like it could be happening here again. Are you gonna do the spin? Come on. Come on. No, I'm not convinced we're gonna get lucky here. Unless it's getting ready for a really big one. Loading up. No joy. There was a hippo where I used to work in the southern Sabi sands where he used to do it all the time. He was literally like a full-on actor. Every time people arrived at his pond, he would put on a special performance for them. Michelle, you've just mentioned how you're quite surprised by the fact that these animals can be so aggressive because they do look very peaceful. And yeah, I guess you can't judge a book by its cover, because this animal kills more humans in Africa than any other mammal. There are attributing reasons for that. I mean, they live along watercourses, and a lot of watercourses in Africa run through areas where it's just community land, where village people stay, and it's not necessarily inside a national park or reserve, and therefore these people require getting water or using the rivers for transport or dams, for washing their clothes, whatever the case is. So people do tend to come into them quite often outside of national parks, and that's often where the problems unfold. Marika, you'd like to know if hippos migrate from one territory to another. I guess yes, you could say that. Migrate is probably maybe a bit of a strong word, which may give you the wrong idea for distance. But they can move fairly large distances from one spot to another, and it's not uncommon for a lot of the herbivores and even predators to kind of slightly shift the areas they live in. Ooh, are we going to see a bit of an altercation here? These two are coming up head to head. What's happening here? Are they sizing one another up? Looks like it. Ooh. How cool is that noise? One of my favorite noises. So yeah, Marika, I guess, yeah, I mean, it's fair to say that they do move. It's not uncommon for them to move. Crocodiles also like to move from one water source to another, depending on the season. Ryan, you'd like to know if they can float or if their feet are touching the bottom. No, they do need to stand on the bottom. Having said that, I mean, I've never snorkeled with hippos, and even if I had, most of the ponds here are so dirty you wouldn't be able to see what their feet are doing. But I do wonder to myself, do they sometimes kind of stand up on their back legs, you know, because their body will be slightly buoyant, but it's not going to float. Kind of similar to ours, I guess. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if necessarily all 4 feet needs to be on the floor, but ordinarily where you see them, they are standing. Now, Justin, you'd like to know if there are any crocodiles here. And yes, in the Sabi sands, there certainly are crocodiles, and quite a few of them. So, just 1 second, sorry, I want to get back to you now. I saw a thickney just on the, yeah, a little bit left, somewhere, there we go. And I'm not too sure what happened, but a woodlands kingfisher came for a bath. It plunged into the water. Oh, you may have seen it fly past again there. It may have just flown through the shots. But as the woodlands kingfisher flew back up into its perch, this thickney hauled out its wings, trying to make itself look big and strong. And I'm wondering if it just got a fright and tried to deter the kingfisher from coming any closer to it, or if it's got some little chicks or a nest somewhere nearby there. Some of you may remember an incredible sighting where on bushwalk I found one of these birds' nests and a tiny newborn chick. It was absolutely awesome, lying eye level with this young bird. Anyway, I think it was a bit of a false alarm. So I can get back to Ryan's question about, what was the question about? The standing. So yeah, I mean, I think they're fairly buoyant, but you know, they do need to stand, that's the bottom line. I guess they can also kick off the bottom in deeper puddles and then make their kind of way up to the surface and then slowly sink back down. They can hold their breath for quite a long time, for up to about 3 minutes. Wonderful. We are going to send you across to Taylor with some elephants. Let's hope everything's safe and sound.
I also hope so, but everything seems to be all calm for the moment. There's one elephant car that seems to be keeping an eye on us, so. But it's the same group of elephants we saw not so long ago. I'm just sitting quietly. They're all starting to trumpet and rumble. Not sure why they're doing that. There's definitely one elephant car that is suspicious of us, but they are going to come down and drink. And there's actually another more dangerous animal out here that we really need to be careful of. And I'm most concerned about it. And that is that creature coming straight towards us in the tall grass. It might be a bit difficult for you to see, but it's trying to stalk us at the moment. Because at this time of the year, just as we go into winter, the leopard tortoises like to bite human toes. So we'll see if the tortoise actually realizes that we are here. But for now, it's completely unaware that we're here too. So how cool is that? Elephants and a tortoise coming straight towards us while we sit at the edge of treehouse stand. This is amazing. Right, well, we're not going to go anywhere. As soon as these elephants do come down to the water to drink, we'll call you back. Steve has finally managed to find Hosanna.
Good afternoon, my beautiful little prince. We have indeed found him, and he is looking fantastic. We came back into the area that Rex and Taylor managed to find him, and we were here. I popped my head out a few times, and it's very thick bush down here. And they found him, and we've come back, and there was 3 elephants exactly where he is right now. And they walked through and out of the drainage to the other side. He was watching them quite closely, but now he's moved back down to exactly underneath the tree that they had the duiker kill in earlier. So as I suspected, he wouldn't have gone very far, but it's just very hard to have seen. I mean, the vegetation here is very thick. He's moving off to the left there, Seb. If you can see him. Campus. Can a leopard lose its fear of man, or lose its fear? I don't think it's a fear that they lose. They don't. I mean, Hosana was very relaxed from a young age with his sister. Their mother was very relaxed. I had situations with the male leopard at Singita years ago that I could walk into a drainage line like this one. He's coming up right to us. He's coming to say hello. I told you this is my friend. He absolutely loves saying hello to me and Seb. Seb was on my interview drive with me, and he's come to say, hello, everybody. Look how big I've gotten. I apologize for the back of the vehicle there. We have no control over where he goes. This is 100% live, and as you can see, he is not concerned with our vehicle at all. So it's not that he loses his fear of us, it's that he never had fear of us. He doesn't see us as anything to be a threat from. The instinct from his mom was never to be fearful of man, never to run away, so he doesn't really know what we are. We're just sort of like this object that keeps appearing in his life. He's right behind us. There is nothing I can do to reposition. Seb has got an entire backboard in his way, but we're just going to have to wait and see what he comes about. You might hear a vehicle in the background. We've got one of the Jacana vehicles with us that was also trying to see him, and we managed to guide him in, so that was wonderful. But while we try and get a better look at this magnificent prince that is, I call my friend, we're going to go to Taylor, who believes got a wonderful sighting of elephants at Treehouse Dam.
We do. We are so privileged this afternoon. This has to be one of the best bushwalks I've had in a very, very long time. And I know I haven't been doing them, so I'm trying to make the most of them. But one of the elephants has made it down. And this was the one that we initially suspected spotted us, because she did turn slightly when we first arrived. So she may have seen us as we were moving through open area. We did try to do so quickly and quietly, but remember, elephants have got exceptionally acute senses. We do have the wind on our favor though, so we're downwind of these ellies, so unless the wind swirls from behind us and blows back towards them, they're probably not going to know that we are even here anymore. She wouldn't be coming down to have a drink of water and splash herself if she was worried that there was something at the dam. But this is so epic. I cannot wait for the other 3 elephants to come down and join her. And I think those little ones are hot and bothered from the day, and I'm probably going to have a spectacular time. Oh, this is amazing. Everybody in Final Control is saying that they're super envious. I don't blame any of you. I can't tell you how amazing this walk has been. I'm really privileged to do what I do. I don't think I've said that for a very long time, so sometimes it's always just good to remember how lucky you are. The fact that I can call this my job. I mean, why wouldn't you want to come on a bushwalk every single day? Some days are quiet, but in summer, when all vegetation, or after the summer rain, sorry, is what I was supposed to say, has brought all this vegetation about, it brings lots and lots of life. Winter can be a bit hard with bushwalks. There's often not much around, but it does make it easier to spot things. It's a little bit safer walking in winter. Here, this time of the year, you can really run into anything. Comes another one, another youngster. Very excited, swinging its trunk, flapping its ears. Bet it can't wait to dip its trunk and its toes into that nice, cool water. And I'm sure that water is quite refreshing. It looks fairly deep. So it's not like this hot sun would have made it too warm just yet. Come on. Did you see what she's doing there? It was kind of like she was moving away all the muddy water, trying to get rid of the dirty stuff, and spraying it away from her, and then having a drink. And elephants are notorious for this, for only wanting to drink the nicest water. Look. No, Project Alpha, you've said if I think that FC is envious, just sitting a few kilometers away, he said, can't imagine how you all must feel sitting thousands of kilometers away. I do. I'm sorry. I'd love to take each and every one of you on a game drive and on a bushwalk because it's spectacular. And listen, we must say thanks to Rexon because he keeps putting us in the most perfect spots too, and then also making sure that we are nice and safe. It's a difficult thing, presenting and being on a bushwalk. I mean, normally we're used to, as guides, looking around and making sure that everybody is safe. But it's nice to know I've got a friend and and he's also an amazing guide, as I said, looking over my shoulder to make sure that we can all do our jobs properly. Except there's now a go-away bird that's alarming at us. So on that happy note, I'm going to send you not too far away to Steve and see if Hosanna has perhaps hopped in the car.
He has not jumped in the car, but he thought about it, I think. He has come up onto the road, and he's given us an absolutely wonderful show. He has just had his face in the branches a moment ago, and Seb informs me that was where Tundi's scent marked this morning. He's doing his grimace response as he's activating the Jacobson organ in the top of the mouth, and all the communication chemical signals going to the head about Tundi and her receptiveness and where she is from a reproductive point of view. All sorts of things have been communicated, and once again we are with a Jacana vehicle, and they're giving us a little bit of a space to jump in front of them there. Hello, Mia. Mia wants to know, is Hosana in danger of a hyena finding the kill? And yes, of course, if it is not in the tree, he'll have no chance of securing it against hyena, but they will find it in, I just want to know, it went here. It's gone down into this drainage line. We're just going to follow him. So if he does not hoist the kill, he will lose it. That is a guaranteed. The hyena will smell it. He's going that way. Just informing our friend so we can keep tabs on him. We want to make sure we don't lose him, and in this kind of drainage line it's very easy to lose a leopard. So he's in danger of losing a kill definitely all the time, but not himself. I don't think he's in too much danger of a hyena. As soon as a hyena shows itself, oh, we're picking a bad line here, Seb. It's okay, we'll just go back out the way we came and we'll see if we can keep following him. And yeah, if he doesn't hoist it, and it was not hoisted, I couldn't see how much meat there was. So I'm getting the feeling that it's that time of day where he's thirsty. Okay, Seb's got a visual of him. He's moving into the thick bush there. Very hard to see. I think he might cross. I think he might be going to Treehouse Dam. Not Treehouse, to Twin Dams. So I'm wondering if we should go back this way or this way. Okay, we're going to go back to Taylor while we try and find him again. And she's got her elephants. We'll see you soon.
Oh, I thought our elephants were going to stay and swim and have a lot of fun, but it seems as though they just came down for a quick drink and are now moving off. Didn't actually look like they had a mud bath at all today, or maybe they're just repositioning. It also looks like that big cow has had her trunk snared. I didn't see the tips of the trunk at all, but it's also quite far away, so I didn't get a good look. I'm just watching what Rexon's doing as well, because it looks like they're coming around to the other side of the dam now, and if they do that, we're of course going to have to move on. We don't want to be stuck anywhere near these cows with their youngsters. Rexon's just watching them for the moment. Also just listening to see if I can hear any more splashing if they're crossing the water, or which direction they're exactly going. We'll be okay though, because if anything does go a little bit pear-shaped, which it probably won't, we can go up, position ourselves up on the dam wall, We can get behind a big marula. There's lots of termite mounds here, but they don't seem to be coming back that way. They seem to just sort of be feeding back towards the sunset. I'm going to stand up now. Wiping my pants because they're going to be very dirty. Now, as we kind of just see what happens, we're going to go this way. Guide monkey. You're wondering if elephants accidentally snack on fish when drinking. Well, see, that validates... Oh, there we go, having a dust bath. That kind of validates my question that I asked everybody if I think that they slurp up tadpoles. So I don't know. I think they must, surely, every now and then. They must slurp up the odd little crab, the odd little tadpole, or whatever other little invertebrate might be in the water. Sorry, Darby, they're coming this way. I didn't mean to cut your frame there. We've just got to watch carefully because we don't want to get the wind to change. We're going to stand just probably still for the moment. They've basically just done a big loop around the dam. Perhaps the sand is nice and soft here, nice and loose. They can kick it up. That's what the elephants will typically do after they've had a drink or just sprayed themselves gently with water. If it does seem like I'm distracted, don't worry. It's just that I have to keep an eye out and I need to make sure that everything is A-OK, which it is. All is fine. Cool. Rex is also nodded, saying everything is 100%. Well, that was pretty spectacular. I don't know how you all feel about that. So we probably won't bother these elephants anymore. She's just coming through there. You might be able to see her. So we'll let them carry on with their afternoon of grazing and browsing. And I'm going to send you across to Scott to see if perhaps he's seen Thandi doing any cartwheels through the grass.
No cartwheels yet, but to be honest, we are kind of only... I mean, she could pop up around this next corner. We're still definitely in the vicinity of where she could be, but we're not as close as my gut feeling is telling me we need to be to where she was last seen this morning. I'm guessing... I mean, it's a complete thumbsuck, but she may have just rested for the day. The fact that we haven't seen any of her tracks coming out of where she was last seen makes me feel confident about that. And now that it's cooling off, she could get up and active and start looking for her and the cubs' next meal. Very happy that you guys had what sounded like a wonderful sighting of those Ellies with Taylor. And I'm hoping that Steve does get lucky in relocating Hosana, the male leopard. Epic stuff. I've been wondering quite a lot about another leopard, the old dominant male who was the first leopard I saw here on Djuma, or the first male leopard I saw here on Djuma, and his name's Mvula. And I recall him being seen in kind of early December, but since then I haven't heard anybody speaking of him. He ordinarily hasn't been spending much time on our property, so we just hear reports of where he'd been seen further to the east of us where we don't drive. And it'll be interesting to know if he is still alive or if he has gone off to leopard heaven. But I've been thinking quite a lot about him recently. He's a beautiful old male. I love seeing some of the older animals, be it lion, leopard, elephants, I mean any of the animals really that have survived a long time and that you can really see a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for? The word that I'm looking for has slipped my mind, but it is a lot of character on their faces. That is the word I was looking for. Now this is another area down to our right here where Thandi has stashed her cub before. Lots of small riverbeds here. Good places to hide out. Now I'm told Hosanna was performing the old phlegm and grimace quite a lot for you guys, and I am need to explain to Take Care what exactly is the kind of point of that Jacobson's organ or vomeronasal gland. Two names, both are quite ridiculous. Basically, Take Care, what those organs do is they help process smell. So it's another form of processing scent. So that's why they'll go up and sniff something and then curl their lips up and grimace, thus kind of further, I think, exposing that organ to... Well done. I saw a bird flying off there. I was wondering if it wasn't a... No worries. No worries. I was wondering if it was carmine beads, and then it just carried on flying, and it just wasn't meant to be. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. It is to process smells. Ah, very good. Steve has managed to relocate Hosanna, so off you go to join him.
Thank you, Scotty. Yes, we did. He tried to give us the slip, but Sev and I were on it, and he is now in a very inaccessible place, the same drainage line as the one before, but he has moved probably about 50 to 80 meters further south from where he was, and he's really in the deep, thick vegetation. Nice steep gully from side to side, and I'm sure it's nice and cool down there. Lots of rank vegetation, and it's quite moist. There's a few puddles of water. Take Care would like to know how leopards navigate, and that's very interesting. I mean, I think that they learn where they're going, and a lot would have to do with smell. It's very difficult to really understand how they navigate, but it's incredible how a female leopard can find her way back to her den site time and time again with seemingly no effort. So I think a lot of it's got to do with smell. There must be some form of memory, but then it's also instinct. How do our domestic cats know how to get home? How do they know how to keep finding their place? It's got a lot to do with memory, and I know domestic cats have got a lot to do with smell, hence why they stay where they are. They rub themselves against things all the time. So I'd say it's not too dissimilar for leopards, but also they're very, very inquisitive. They spend a lot of time exploring their territories, and what I've seen in the past is how leopards will often follow very similar routes to and from areas, and once they make a kill, they spend time at that kill, only leaving to go get something to drink before going straight back to where they were. So I hope that answers your question, Take Care. But he's not doing too much at the moment, as is to be expected of a leopard at this time of day. I assumed he was probably going to go and drink, and there is a little bit of a puddle just down here to the right that he probably had a drink of while we were trying to find him again. Just down here in the rocks, there's a little bit of water there that we actually, when we found him, saw him vaulting that water. Not a huge amount, but it is wet, and leopards don't seem too bothered by the liquids that they consume, neither the meat. And he is now lying as flat as they can get. He's not looking very full, so I'm assuming there's still a fair bit. Yes, next comments on the bush pea, which is just in front of him. There we go. I spoke about these yesterday on my drive with the Ferg. The bush pea, very nice to be used as an insecticide and as a legume, meaning it is has rhizomes and mycorrhiza, not rhizomes, has mycorrhiza and a symbiotic relationship with mycorrhiza, which is a nitrogen-fixing bacteria. So it adds a little bit of color to the spot pattern of Hosana lying in the drainage line, and I don't see him doing too much too soon, except for swatting at the flies, which seem to be driving him a little bit mad. I've seen him do this before. We saw Hukumuri the other day, also attempting to swat some flies. I think it must be a never-ending battle for the animals out here. They don't have the want and the need of, or they don't have the ability to create insecticides for themselves to keep these things at bay, and their cleanliness is also quite doubtful. Marvelous. Hopefully he'll come out of there and give us some more views, but you saw how he came right up to the vehicle before to tell Seb and I, nice to see you chaps again. And it is indeed nice to see this gentleman once more. I was looking for him this morning and yesterday, always looking for him, and we slipped past. Instead of turning left onto this road, I turned right, and lo and behold, others were left to find him, but it's okay. We managed to come back this afternoon. I'm just super happy that Faith, our director from the Mara, is down here. She was out this morning and got to see Hosana and Tandi, and I believe also Tandi's cub. So she was super spoilt for her first drive in the Sabi sands. Jocelyn, my favorite animal to track would be a leopard. They are probably the hardest animal to track, and when you find them, there is a huge amount of success that rushes through, or pride that rushes through my body. Lions are probably second. I've tracked many, many more lions than I have leopard, purely because they are not as stealthy, and they are generally more than one. And every time I find a lion, I get very excited. I've only tracked a handful of leopards successfully in my life, but it is something that here in the Sabi Sands I'm hoping to practice and work on. But it is definitely one of the hardest of the animals to track. I'm sure Scott will agree with me there. But when you have experts like Rexon and Herbie, it seems to make it a whole lot easier. But I tell you what, folks, it's taken years and years and years for those individuals to acquire those skills. They've spent their life in the bush. If you take all of the skills that you put out there, from whatever business degrees or whatever sports you've played, whatever, put that all into one skill, and then you can possibly have only the smallest idea of what some of these extremely good trackers are capable of doing. Toby Take would like to know if Hukumuri would see Hosanna as a threat. Most certainly. Those of you who were lucky enough to see Hosanna and Tingana on my interview drive, we were watching Tingana, and yes, Hosanna is his son, but as Hosanna started approaching, Tingana turned his head, didn't look at him, and was letting off these growls. That's what leopards do when they see another leopard. They don't just attack. It's not what they do. Lions will often attack, but they will growl, low growls, and not look at the individual. And Hosanna immediately started playing the card of I'm not aggressive. He started just sort of jostling around, and he almost behaved like a child would after seeing something frightening, you know. He sort of became all sort of childlike and didn't show any of the posturing that a dominant male leopard would show. So Hosanna would show what we call submissive behavior if he saw Hukumuri, and yes, you could probably see some action happening between them, but it probably won't be that aggressive, but Hukumuri would dominate him and probably chase him away. All depends on how Hosanna deals with it at the time. If he reacts back with aggressive behavior, there will be conflicts and there will be confrontation. So any male leopard coming of age will be chased away by male leopards normally. That is the sort of the stand of what happens, depending on how they behave. He's at 2 years of age now. He's almost there. He's probably got about 6 months to a year until he's really going to make a show of it for himself. So he's still got some time, and I think he's going to avoid males like that. He'll walk around and he'll smell and he'll sort of pick up on their signs, but he'll try and avoid them if he can, purely because he doesn't want to get a hiding, which is what I'm sure he would get if he met Hukumuri. So we're going to stay right here, folks. Please keep sending through your questions and comments at #SafariLive. And we're going to go back over to Scott Dyson, who I believe is right on our eastern boundary.
Yes, we are back on the eastern boundary, and I'm hoping that we are going to get some sign or clues as to where a female leopard called Tandi is hiding. and hopefully her cub as well. She did travel with her cub, so they were last seen together. My guess, though, would be that as and when she gets moving again this evening, she might leave the cub behind, because she does need to go and get a meal, and taking your cub shopping for a meal out here will not result in success, because that young cub is so preoccupied with wanting to play and bound through the grass that it'll chase off any possible prey. So usually what happens is mom will stash the cub and head off on her own for, last night Steve found her at about 6:30 in the evening, and she only got back to the den site at, the place where she stashed the cub, it's not really a den, at about 8:30 this morning. So 14 hours that cub spent on its own, which is not uncommon. Now, for any of you who may have just joined, she was walking up this road towards us and then veered off to the right. Now, this is our boundary. Anything to the left we cannot go, anything to the right we can. So the good news is somewhere right where we are here is where they veered off, and who knows how far they veered off in that direction. To the west you can see the setting sun there, and only time will tell. Well, hopefully time will tell if we get to the bottom of this puzzle. Take care. You would like to know if young leopards are born with teeth. I don't know. I mean, I guess most animals are not. There's nothing to start with, but then tiny little pin-sharp teeth start popping out within a very short space of time. But I don't think they will be born with teeth. I actually don't know, though. Never put my finger in a baby leopard's mouth. If anybody else knows the answer to that question, please feel free to share that with us. It'll be great to get to the bottom of that question. Kat, you would like to know if leopards ever leave their cubs in trees. Well, yes, the very leopard we are looking for left her cub up in a tree while she went to go and check the perimeter. So yes, they will. And even if a leopard doesn't leave her cub up a tree, her cub can do what it likes when she's gone. And cubs will move around to varying degrees. If you move too much, you'll probably get killed. But yes, they do move around, and the cub could decide to climb a tree just for fun, or it could well climb a tree in order to escape any possible threats that may come into the area. It's the leopard's kind of number one go-to move, getting up a tree to escape harm, because they are the best tree climbers out here. Out of the big predators, hyenas can't climb trees, cheetah can't really climb trees either. Well, I must be careful. They can, but they don't have razor-sharp claws that can help pull them up, so the trees need to be very forgiving for a cheetah to get up them. Lions, with their sharp claws, just like leopards that they protract out of a sheath when they need them, they can climb, but it's not very graceful. So these two leopards initially walked along this road and then turned left onto the road we've just come off. So what I'm going to do is turn right up ahead and then go up parallel to where we've been traveling, and hopefully come up with some sign of them there. And while we continue with our quest, we are going to send you back on foot with Taylor McCurdy. Tighten your laces.
That's why I wear Velcro shoes, Scott. No, I'm just joking. I can actually tie laces, surprisingly. My younger brother, on the other hand, only learned to tie shoelaces the day before he was in grade 1 for the first year of school. He just refused to use them. Ah, look what we've got. Look what we've got. Is this our dear friend, the female? Yeah. We're trying to work out who it is, if it is Thandi that's been walking around here. So you might be able to see there's two tracks. One facing that way, and another leopard track facing that way too. They're very, very small, very tiny. Look, I can fit them basically in between my thumb. Look at that. That's crazy. Now, this is from today. I don't know if this is from this morning. Something's been going on. So perhaps Thandi has been walking around here. Or maybe Shadow. We don't really know what's going on. It's not very far away from Mamba Road in terms of how animals travel and the network systems that they use. If you drive around on the road, probably going to take you a little bit longer. See, look how nicely these are. Pushed down into the sand. How cool is that? That is beautiful in terms of a leopard track. So we're just sort of following them. We've just come across them now. And I think these tracks are going to lead us back to those ones we saw earlier. We don't know where they're from now. Now, I'm going to just do this. I'm going to walk with the leopard tracks between my feet. Now I've lost them. Someone's driven over them. So maybe they are from this morning. But sometimes we see some that are fresher. Sometimes others look a little bit more windblown. Now, Sarah, you're wondering at what age do leopard cubs partake in the hunt? It's quite interesting because sometimes you'll get youngsters that just don't want to leave their mother's sides and sort of follow them everywhere, even though they've been told not to do so. So I would say anywhere from about 6.5, 7 months old, you're already finding that they're curious themselves. So they're looking for birds. They're looking for tortoises, terrapins, anything that they can play with and learn to try and catch. And then, if they're lucky, they'll start catching squirrels as well, dwarf mongoose. Rexon is saying, come, we're doing the bush jog again. We're doing the bush jog. What you got? Oh, water. Oh, that's what it was. There's lots of termite mounds around over here. We're quite far away from Rexon. And Rexon had said that there was a warthog that was just standing looking at us, but a distance away, probably getting ready to settle in from the evening. But there's an impala. If you look where Rexon is, you might be able to see the impala in front of him, just down the road, staring straight at us. I don't know if it's a male or a female. But, oh, I have binoculars. You know when you forget the things that are around your waist? Beautiful ram. Now, we're quite far away from him. He's looking at us going, I'm not really worried about you. I'm going to outrun you. I'm going to outleap you. I'm going to out-everything you. So we're pretty much okay. He doesn't feel threatened by us. But if we carry on walking down the road towards him, well then, that's exactly what's going to happen, is he's going to run away. Now, for those of you that are wondering why we are on the road, it's because we are tracking leopards. Can't see the tracks over this way. So we're just trying to figure out where exactly they've gone. And unfortunately, all the leopard tracks we've had today have been on these roads, and they all keep linking and crossing over one another. I don't really know what's going on. Too many leopards. We also saw some more young male leopard tracks up on Savage's Track. Yeah, Savage's Track too. So we followed them all the way to this junction. They then disappeared, and then we picked up these female tracks. So it's a tricky one when you're out on a bushwalk. Nice sunset, says Darby. Darby, you're welcome to look at the sunset. It is very pretty. Again, just the right amount of clouds with the beautiful marula trees silhouetting the sky. I thought I could hear some southern ground hornbills singing their song, but perhaps I was mistaken. Just the birds chirping, no alarm calls. Ah, there we go. Now, speaking about tracking and looking for things on the floor and on the sandy roads, Del Rez, you have asked if it's possible to track a honey badger. I don't think I'm a good enough tracker, if I must be honest, to track down a honey badger. See, they'll come out on the roads, of course, like all the animals do, and they'll walk. But with the honey badgers, they typically take an animal pathway or they'll just run off into the grass. So I think it would be exceptionally hard. Perhaps if you're in an area, maybe where it is quite arid and it is very dry and there's not much grass around, and you can see the tracks on the sand wherever you go, you're not just limited to the sandy roads, then maybe, yes. But out here, it'll be very, very difficult. But not impossible. Maybe someone that's got some serious trailing skill would be able to do that. Cool. Well, there's some birds having a little chirp down a little way away from us. Perhaps it's because of us. Maybe it's because of something else. So we'll go and investigate and try and follow these leopard tracks. However, Steve has still got Hosana.
Thank you very much, Taylor. I hope you managed to track whatever it is you're tracking there. And we do still have the prince, although he is as flat as a pancake right now. And almost invisible. If we didn't know he was there, he would not be. That's how camouflaged these cats are. You can see him panting. He doesn't seem to be extremely full. You can see the little bit there sort of towards the right of the screen where the belly would really be extended higher than the hip. It is not. So I don't think he's eaten too much of his deka. But we didn't see the deka when we went back there. We had elephants in the area and he was moving around quite interested to know what they might make of him. And then he moved off. So I'm sure if he gets hungry again, he'll move back because the hard work of catching the animal has been done. As I mentioned, the little puddle of water is right here, so he is wanting for nothing. It is starting to cool down. The sun is slowly starting to make its way towards the horizon, and the time of the leopard is upon us. There we go. Seb's going to show you where we are. Laura, it's a type of bush pea. I will find the name for you quickly, at least the genus name. Just give me a moment to find it. A friend of mine helps me with these identifications. Difficult when you don't. The genus name is Tephrosia, one of the bush peas that are found locally, and it can be used as an insecticide, and some of them can also be used as a fish poison. I'm not sure which ones exactly, but there are a number of species, and you can tell that it's a pea by the bean-like shape of the pod, and that is indicative of legumes that we find throughout the world, I do believe.